Hi, everyone. This week, we are going to be working on lesson 18 in Ready Reading, describing connections between sentences and paragraphs. Today, we will be working on pages 296, 297, 298, 299, and 302. So this week, we are going to be reading articles about food inventions and learning about the different ways authors organize information. Authors often use common organizational patterns like sequencing and cause and effect. And again, cause to review is the reason something happens, and effect is what happens as a result. Authors use these organizational patterns and details to make it easier for readers to understand what they're reading. Readers who recognize these patterns can predict what might come next in the text and adjust their reading accordingly. So, in thinking about cause and effect, I would like you to consider the following situation. Let's say you oversleep on a school day. You would ask yourself a number of questions. You would think about, what part of the school day am I going to miss? What's the first thing that I do at school? And then what do I do after that? And after that? We often go through the school day in our brains. And why do we do that? We do it so that we know what comes next and it isn't confusing or surprising. So authors often choose text structures to make it easier for us to understand and predict, and to help us better understand how sentences and ideas are connected in paragraphs. So I'd like you to take a look at the learning target on page 296, and it says, when you describe how ideas in sentences or paragraphs are connected, you will better understand what the author is trying to explain. And so next to this green read, it says, you know that a paragraph is a group of sentences. Paragraphs and sentences both contain ideas that connect to each other in some way. Sometimes the connection is a cause and effect relationship. A cause is the reason something happens, and an effect is what happens as a result. Words such as because, so, as a result, and since often signal this kind of connection. Authors also connect sentences and paragraphs by showing that things happen in a sequence or order. Look for signal words such as first, then, and finally in sentences to see how ideas and events in a sequence are connected. Let's take a look at this cartoon and let's think about how ideas are connected. And this cartoon is entitled The Invention of the Sandwich. And this individual here, his name happens to be the Earl of Sandwich. So let us take a look at this first frame. And he's saying, I'm hungry, but I'm too busy for a meal. And in the next frame, he goes and talks to the cook and says, cook, make me something I can eat in a hurry. And in the next frame, we're seeing the cook busy at work here. And in the last frame, we're seeing the Earl of Sandwich saying, yum, and he's, of course, eating. Let's take a look at page 297. You are going to have a chart to complete that relates directly to this cartoon. And so the green think says, finish the charts to show two different ways the ideas in the cartoon are connected. Use the first chart to show a cause and effect connection, and use the second to show a sequence. So the cause and effect here, why it happened, that's the cause, and what happened is the effect. The cause here, of course, is filled out for you. It says, one day the Earl of Sandwich was too busy to eat. Well, what was a result of that? Cause and effect. And then you will need to take a look at the cartoon and fill out the sequence of events. What happened first? What happened next? What happened last? And it might help if you retell the story out loud so that you can, again, hear it and better understand those connections. So we're going to pause the video here to give you an opportunity to complete page 297 before we proceed to the next article. Okay, everyone, we are going to proceed to the article on page 298. And this article is entitled Space Food, and it's written by Claire Daniels. And as we are reading this article together, I would like you to place check marks above any confusing words or phrases so that we can clarify the meaning. And I would also like you to take a look inside, around, and beyond confusing words and phrases to see if you can help yourself figure out the meanings. And so what I would like you to do also as we are reading this article is I would like you to look for particular signal words, words that would indicate sequence, words that would indicate cause and effect. And I would like you to highlight or mark those words so that you can better understand the organization being used in the article. And so also there is a close reader habit box here down at the bottom. And again, it is encouraging you to circle and underline words. Circle the words that are showing cause and effect, if there are any. Underline words that are showing sequence, if there are any. All right. Let us start with paragraph 1. Here we go. Astronaut food has changed over the years. In the early days of space exploration, astronauts traveled in small spacecraft where there was little room for food. Fresh foods in early space travel were not practical. They spoiled, took up too much space, and were too heavy. As a result, astronauts in space ate freeze-dried foods. Freeze-dried foods don't spoil. They don't weigh much, and they don't take up much space. Add water, and you have fresh peas, mashed potatoes, steak, or macaroni and cheese. There is even freeze-dried ice cream. Foods are freeze-dried in a food plant. First, vegetables and fruits are washed and cut up. Foods like meats and pasta are cooked. Second, the food is frozen to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Then workers grind the food into smaller pieces or into a powder. Finally, the foods are dried to remove 98% of the water. Today, astronauts travel with freezers and ovens, so they don't depend on freeze-dried foods. Still, many people who go on backpacking and boat trips often use them. So let us take a look at page 299. And these charts are going to help you further understand the organization that the author used and the connections between the sentences and the paragraphs. So Number 1 here says to finish the cause and effect chart with details from the first 2 paragraphs of Space Food. Look for what happened and why it happened to understand the events. So again, the cause and effect, why it happened, and the result of it, what happened. So in your breakout groups, you are going to be discussing this chart and completing it. And you are also on page 302 going to be able to offer a short response to this prompt. In your own words, explain how freeze-dried foods are made. Use signal words correctly to show the sequence of the steps. So again, we are looking at words such as first, then, and finally to help you in your organization. Okay, friends, we are going to come back together for any last minute questions.